Hello, everybody. Welcome into a brand new week here at Computer America. It's Monday, and we have a terrific show planned for you. This is our pre-show, behind the scenes, as we just said here. I did get to see Captain America, Civil War, so that was a lot of fun. We'll probably talk about that.
I had a couple friends see that, and mixed results.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it was terrific. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it.
Like, I had one friend that said it was if you like everything Marvel, then this is going to be one of the best of the Marvel franchise.
Yeah.
Marvel, not Marvel. Marvel, and then I had the other one that said something like
until showtime.
And then I had someone else say something along the lines of she did not like the premise where everything could have been resolved if everyone just sat down at a table and talked it out.
Well, but it was more complex if you understand it.
But do you think that the main arc of the story could have been helped if they all sat down and talked?
No, they did all sit down and talk, but a lot of things didn't come up because a lot of the things they didn't know about. They didn't know to discuss. That's the problem. Anyhow, we'll get into that, but we got about 30 seconds. We got Gary MK is going to be here from Tech50 Plus. Is going to be here with us for both hours, and we're going to be talking about some of the fun things. He's normally scheduled on the last Thursday of the month, but due to scheduling, we're having him here on today's show. It's going to be a lot of fun, so sit back, relax, as we bring to you 2 hours of the Computer America Show in 10 seconds right now.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And welcome into a Monday edition of the computer. It's Monday. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's equal number of Mondays as there are Fridays, so
that's true. Yeah, but that's the way it goes here on the show.
I'm just saying, you take the good with the bad.
That's true, and there's a lot of.
Although
good.
we can have a whole conversation about how, in actuality, the work week for a lot of people doesn't end at 5 p.m. anymore, and it certainly doesn't end Friday afternoon anymore. More and more people take it home with them, and that's kind of sad.
Well, I would agree with you. But the point is,
it's hard to be hyper connected, and then it's hard to justify not working. When you have something to do, something that needs to be done, and you can work on it from home, but should you work on it from home?
That's true.
But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes, it is. But anyhow, hopefully all of you had a wonderful weekend, and I did catch the Captain America movie. For those who watched the pre-show, caught that, and I promised you that I would, and I did, and I thought it was really terrific. And we'll get into the details of that. That probably not today, but maybe later on in the week. But today we're going to be joined by Gary MK, who is with Tech50 Plus. He is the founder and chief content officer. We're going to be talking to him about lots of things. Did you know, Ben, that May is National Better Hearing Month?
What? I didn't hear about that.
What did you say? I was waiting for that. No,
I said I didn't hear about that. That has nothing to do with not hearing.
Yes, exactly.
That's not knowing. There's a difference.
There is a difference. Yeah, we didn't know it. But anyway, it is, and we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be talking about virtual reality and the Internet of Things, and we're going to talk about health fit trackers and all cool things that have to do with technology, and he's just a a real interesting guy, and we have him on the show with us now every single month. He joins us. If you have a comment or question, we'd love to hear from you. Of course, pick up the phone, give us a call at 347-884-8881. That's 347-884-8881. We'll get you on and get you through. You can also, if you don't want to go on the air, you're radio shy, just go to any page on our website, computeramerica.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see it says Submit a Question. It's a link. Just click it. It'll take you to our question submission page. You can type in your question or type in anything that you want. Really hit the Submit button. Ben and I will see it immediately. The other thing that we also invite you to do is watch the show. We provide live video streaming of Computer America now. I've been doing so for quite some time. Head over to computeramerica.com. Again, any page you'll see, it'll say Show Lounge. It's on the menu bar. And on any page, just click it. You'll be taken to our live video streaming page. You'll join the show already in progress, and you can see Ben. You'll see Gary. Ben actually has the technology to display websites, video links, movie links, videos, movies, everything. You can see everything as well as hear about what we're talking about. So it just makes for a richer experience. So again, everything that we do here on the air is also at our website, which is computeramerica.com, the internet home of our radio broadcast. 347-884-8881. We'll get you on and get you through. So anything that you want to mention before we get started today, Ben?
Anything else? No? Well, I guess we should be upfront in saying that next Monday, I should know this, whichever holiday it is,
Yes.
we are observing it. I don't know if it's like, Arbor Day or something like that, but
Memorial Day.
Memorial
Yes.
Day, there we go. Well, actually, that's important. We actually like our armed troops here. But yeah, so Monday is, like you said, Memorial Day, so we will be having a best of show that day. We will not have guests or live interviews or anything like that. And then I believe we are also going to be, we are also not having a show on Friday as well.
Yes, that's very true. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, we are going to be. We have some things that have come up, and Nathan Evans, if you're, who's one of our correspondents, he's the managing editor of Pop Zara magazine. He's going to be joining us on the following Friday, which is the 3rd. So the 27th and the 30th. So it's going to be a really long weekend for us. Actually, we're going to have a really long weekend, and there'll be no live show. We'll have best of shows scheduled for those days. So that's
we just kind of want to stem off the tidal wave of, it's like, are you guys gonna have a show? Are you guys doing it live? Can we do this? Can we do that? Yeah. So Friday and Monday, but we'll be back, strong and hitting the road on Tuesday. So
excellent. Excellent.
So,
thank you for bringing it up. Absolutely. Okay. Well, that said, let's get to it. Again, the publication is Tech50 Plus. And it is an online magazine with the motto, Technology with a Boomer Perspective. It's written by Gary Kay. He himself is an award-winning journalist who's been covering tech since 1981. And after a career with major networks, he now writes about tech for the 50-plus market. Cool. Gary is Tech50 Plus's founder and chief content officer, and I'm pleased to announce that Gary has also been added to Computer America's stable of technology correspondents who appears here on a regular monthly basis. Now, normally he's scheduled for every fourth Thursday of the month, but schedules being what they are, that's going to be a little more difficult to keep track of. So right now he's with us today, and we'll take it every month as we go. But it's close to every fourth Thursday of the month, and I'm sure it will settle down into that once we get things rocking and rolling here. But anyway, Gary.
We're generally within a week or two of it,
Exactly. And he's bringing his insights into how people 50 and over are embracing and using computers and technology. Gary, welcome into Computer America. How are you, sir?
Always a pleasure to be back, Craig. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Ben, you're talking about working a 5-day work week.
mm-hmm.
That has long since gone away, and thank God. I mean, I work from home after a lifetime of commuting from the wilds of Connecticut into New York, putting up with roughly 20 hours of commute time a week, which is unconscionable.
Oh,
And now I find, you know what, if I get an interesting idea at 2 o'clock in the morning, I can go downstairs and I can do something about it. When I worked for the networks, if I got an interesting idea at 2 o'clock in the morning, there was nothing I could do. And now if I'm tired and I want to go sleepy time at 3 in the afternoon, I can do that too. So I think that flexible work is actually a benefit to most of us.
yeah, and I
Well,
would.
but like my point was it's definitely good for people in your situation, and for a lot of people who don't have to handle that commute. They can do work from home, and that's great. But at the same time, I mean, let's face it, the work that a lot of people do, they're more productive than they've ever been in the history of ever. Depending on how well the resources are used, like your average work hour, assuming you are using it wisely, is more productive than your grandparents were 40, 50 years ago, just because the way companies work. They're much
Also
more
because there's
streamlined.
technology that really helps you along.
Exactly. But at the same time, we're getting more and more done, and yet we're still asking people to work, not 30 hours a week because they're getting more done than ever before. We're asking people to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week because they can work more from more places. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has its limits. One of my friends used to say, if the management keeps asking us to do so much more with so much less, imagine what we can get done with nothing at all.
And then there's the quote of the beatings will stop once morality improves. I mean, it's
So let's turn to May is Better Hearing Month.
sure.
I've been learning a lot about hearing loss. What?
Yeah.
And the hearing aid industry has really embraced this whole month as a way to sort of tout its products. But the fact is that for my audience, hearing loss is very real. Something like 1/3 of Americans age 65 and over already have significant and in most cases undiagnosed hearing loss. But it's not just the old folks. I mean, one of the interesting things that came up in the course of the last few weeks in interviews that I've been doing and so on is that there is almost an epidemic of what's now called noise-induced hearing loss amongst younger people, teenagers, millennials, and so on. And it's really getting to be a dangerous trend. A lot of these kids who are in their 20s, by the time they get to their 40s and 50s, are not going to be able to enjoy that music that's blasting into their eardrums now because they're not going to be able to hear it.
Well, it's interesting because we've had Belltone a number of times on the show. Belltone, actually they're different. There was one from Canada, one from Florida. We've had a number of them talking about their hearing aid products and how they've improved them over the years and how they work with your smartphone now, and they're not just amplifiers, but they're very
They're very intelligent.
they're intelligent. Yeah, exactly. They can discern different frequencies.
Yeah, I'll talk to one of those in just a minute or two.
And it was very enlightening to us and our listeners to see that that it's come so far. But in talking with them, one of the things that came out in the discussion was the fact that that hearing loss is not necessarily. It was always thought of people an elderly thing. As you get older, your hearing starts to go, and it was always looked upon that. But
There's definitely a stigma, is what they found, at least in their industry.
Yeah, but the case in point is that a lot of young people who go to loud concerts and listen to and loud noises, and whether it be in their cars and the vibration.
Oh, who are we kidding? It's the headphones and the earbuds, and they turn it up unreasonably loud.
And it takes a toll. It takes a toll, and it affects all generations. This hearing this hearing loss. It's more than just a medical thing. I mean, it's become almost like a social thing, a social stigma, where because of the different things that we do to our ears and abuse them and don't realize that we're abusing them, that we pay the price with hearing loss. And it was it was sort of an eye opener to a lot of our listeners that this happens.
So, Garrett, how did you find out about this whole, this whole month dedicated to better hearing? I mean,
well, I was approached. We're going to parse this out because, Craig, you just covered a whole range of issues that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened was that some weeks ago, I was approached by the folks who make hearing aids from the German company Siemens, which has now spun off its hearing aid business into a new company called Savantos, and their hearing aid line is now called Signia. So if you want to keep that straight, you'll need a scorecard. But they came out with an interesting set of hearing aids called the Primax system, and they approached me because they knew that we spend a lot of time covering high-res audio. And one of the things about the Primax system is that it will actually play high-res tracks from your high-res music player. It will also stream directly from your smartphone, and it has a lot of bells and whistles. So, for example, it has a whole spatial app called that works on your smartphone, and it's not just a hearing aid. Besides the two pieces you stick in your ears, there's actually a third device that you hang around your neck, and the loop that you hang it on is actually an antenna, and the device itself is a small transmitter. It's a Bluetooth transmitter. So it will pick up the stuff from your smartphone. It will pick up the stuff from a television or a high-res audio player, and it gives you the ability to actually set your own sort of cone of hearing. So you can adjust it to just do a narrow cone that's right in front of you, which really allows you to walk into a restaurant and zero in on a conversation with somebody across the table from you and basically get rid of the extraneous noise from around you. Or I used it at a couple of Broadway shows, and I could hear startlingly well the conversation from the stage, but I could also hear the lady unwrapping her candy bar 4 rows in front of me. Life is trade-offs. But, these things are now feature-packed. It's not just amplification. Here's the problem, and the Belltones and the Siemens of the world sort of save this for the end. And the end is that a good set of hearing aids, and by hearing aid it is something that is a medically prescribed or audiologist prescribed device, according to the FDA. Those suckers are going to run you $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, and almost no insurance plan on the planet covers them. I mean, there are some, but they're very few. And so I listened to what the hearing industry is saying about undiagnosed and untreated hearing loss, and I'm going, well, guys, even if you know you're losing your hearing, are you going to spend as much for a set of hearing aids as you are for a used car?
Yeah. Not a lot of people are going to do that.
Right, and I think that if they want to get this fixed, they've got to rethink their pricing. And what I have been told is that the most of that money is actually going for the fitting from the audiologist. It's not the devices. It's the service fee for the audiologist. Can you imagine going in for a set of glasses, and instead of it costing you $300-400 to see the optometrist, it costs you $4,000?
Mm. Yeah.
And that's the comparison. So I think the reality is that the industry really needs to turn back to itself and look at its pricing models in terms of how they're going to try and fix this.
Right.
Well, and there's definitely an element there of, well, if they have such a large possible client base, And I mean, let's face it, this is going to be kind of over the course of a couple of years. But if they actually do start getting more customers, and they really do, start getting more and more people, kind of buying in. And I know it's private industry, and they'll, and they'll have more people buying in, but the cost would probably have to come down if so many people, kind of start getting into it, because then it's not, well, we have to make our bottom line somewhere, and it's going to be off of these few people, so we have to charge a couple $1,000s. Maybe if more people bought into it, and again, thanks to 3D printers, they could bring that down because they have so many more customers.
Well, look what's happened with the eyeglass industry. I mean, just the other day, I had to get a new pair of eyeglasses. I got two, not one, but I got 2 pairs of prescription eyeglasses and a free visit to the optometrist who was there for $38. $38 for 2 pairs of glasses and an optometrist visit. So.
Too bad they make it look like Groucho Marx, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Oh, nice frames, everything. So the price, because there's a lot of competition, I would assume, in the eyeglass arena. You have all these different companies that are making eyeglasses, and they're trying to do whatever they can to bring people in. So I don't know if that's going to happen with the hearing market, but certainly a possibility, I would think.
Well, you've got these devices now that look a little like hearing aids that are, in-ear amplifiers is what they're called, and instead of costing $4,000 or $5,000, many of them cost $25, $50, $100, and the problem is that they're not FDA approved as a hearing aid. Mm-hmm. Because you don't have to get a prescription from an audiologist, but they look a little kludgy. They don't fit nearly as comfortably as a hearing aid does, and they're not as good. But a lot of people are now turning to those because they're saying, hey, maybe this isn't perfect, but for $100 as opposed to $5,000, yeah, I can do that.
Sure. And it's like anything else. I mean, you can certainly get it with more features and more abilities. I was just looking at the other day. Performers are using these instead of to monitor themselves because it's
the in-ear monitors. Yes,
yeah, they're in-ear monitors, and you can barely see them, but they actually are in ear, and usually it's in both ears now. It was one performer. She was wearing them, and they were like diamond studded, but you could see them. And it actually closed the ear canal, and it filled, so she was able to hear and monitor herself. Because if you're a singer, let's face it, you can't hear yourself. It's quite easy to go either off pitch or whatever.
Right, and over the years, everybody notices that when these guys lay out their stuff on stage, there are always speakers that actually face towards the performer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they could monitor themselves. Well, this is just basically just a huge improvement on that because, as you say, it does block off extraneous noise, and they only are listening to the feedback they want to hear, which is like a mix minus generally.
Exactly. Well, they can. Well, I don't know if it's mixed minus. They hear the basic music and they hear themselves. They hear their voices, but they don't hear all the other extraneous sounds and everything.
Right. I mean, that's how I live my life. I only hear what I want to hear. So, I mean.
Well, Ben's hearing is a different story.
my wife says I only listen to what I want to listen to, but that's different, right? The other thing I wanted to get back to, because you raised this interesting point, which is the kids. We're all in broadcasting here. I mean, I grew up as a college radio disc jockey and then in all news radio, where I lived with headphones on and I lived with multiple audio inputs in a working all news radio newsroom, and it was not that any of them were loud, it's that they were all loud and they were all louder than each other. And I'm sure that's had an impact over the year on my hearing. So, but what do you do with the kids now who start off as teenagers listening to this stuff plugged into their ears and basically making their heads shake? And I came across one company called Puro Sound Labs.
Yeah, we've had them on the show.
Yeah, and and these guys are doing a great job on trying to get the message out by producing products with noise limiters in them.
Yeah, I've actually sent me a pair to try and out, and they have a wireless version, they have a wired version. They're expanding the line, but there is a lot of positive feedback from it. But yeah, they don't blast you, you know. They just make sure that what you need to hear, you hear it and you hear it clearly, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't blow your drums out, you know. So. Uh, and
And I wonder how much is going to actually sort of get worse with the new world of connected cars, where you have multiple inputs coming at you, multiple audio inputs coming at you in your own car.
Yeah, I mean, well, they have Apple Play now in automobiles. You keep seeing ads for that, and the newer versions of automobiles.
I hope it gets better, and part of it is definitely going to be awareness. You know, I mean, heck, we're talking about it right now. But I remember going to school when portable, well, not the Walkman, but CD players with radio tuners, and and eventually the iPods and things like that. And I remember following kids, walking to school 10 feet behind them, and I could hear clearly what was playing through their earbuds.
Right,
I
and
mean,
if you can hear it, imagine what's going through their brains, right?
I just the song, I bet. I mean, it was so loud. So, kids just it's the whole, they think they're invincible, and and I hate to use that cliche, but when it comes to hearing loss, it's such a non-issue for so many kids that at 25, 26, 27, you start feeling the effects. That's not good.
And
Yeah.
and you would think that pain would be an issue here. You would think that they're driving this so loud into the ears. You think it would hurt, but evidently it's up to a
I
point
would
where
assume eventually it kind of like dulls itself.
I don't know. You know what? I know that I have lost some of the hearing on the high end, but I've been to some concerts, rock concerts, where they were selling earplugs,
yes, yeah,
and advisedly so, because if you didn't use the earplugs, it was a physically painful experience
Hmm.
to listen to music at that volume. Why are people doing that to themselves?
you know
It
where
can't-
you know where else it happens. When I went to see Captain America, I went to see an IMAX screen. It was loud. I mean, really loud. Fortunately, it was just for an hour and a half, but still, it was. The movie theaters can play audio at a very high intensity.
Were you watching on an IMAX?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that would be one of the reasons. IMAX has those, like the IMAX screen is all about the screen, but then they also have like the IMAX surround sound thing, and it's like you feel your jaw vibrating with each explosion.
It's really loud. So
It's good stuff.
it is good stuff. But maybe they should offer earplugs at the theater too.
So one of the ways, this is one of the newer things that I learned. You and I all look at new technologies on a regular basis.
Uh-huh.
And let's face it, 90% of what comes across my desk is variations on a theme. Very little of it is what I would call revolutionary. And a couple of weeks ago, I was exposed to a new technology in this hearing space called hypersound. And I got very excited when I first heard it, because it was one of the first technologies that I've come across that actually improves the quality of life for the people it's intended to serve. And how often can we say that about a product?
Not often, really.
And so what it does, and this is fascinating to me, the way that most people discover that they are losing hearing as they age, the first thing that goes is the high end of the audio range.
Right.
How do you know? Well, of course you can get tested by an audiologist, and that just sets you back 4K, or you can listen to the television. And there's a good chance that as you get older and you're listening to the television, you find that dialogue increasingly muffled, and you have to turn up the volume in order to understand it. And you're turning around to your spouse and going, "What did he say? What did he say?" So either you're blasting whoever else is in the room out of the room, or you're annoying the person you're watching with.
Mm-hmm.
what these guys have done, and this is actually a division of Turtle Beach, the guys who make the gaming headphones
Yes,
and all
sir.
these gaming accessories, and they came up with a technology called hypersound. And it basically has three pieces. It has a digital signal processor and two emitters that look a little bit like electrostatic speakers. But they're not speakers. They actually emit an audio level frequency that is above the normal hearing range. And it generates it to a very, it's like using a laser for audio. Very, very pinpoint. And so you set up the two emitters on the two sides of your television set or another audio system. And when you sit down and you can see yourself in both reflectors simultaneously so that your reflections match up,
Right.
you know you're in the sweet spot. And in that sweet spot, you can hear every word crystal clear in immersive audio. So it's as if you're wearing headphones. You can't make out a single point. It doesn't sound like it's coming from a right speaker or a left speaker or either. It is filling your brain. And it just basically gives you're getting the low end of the spectrum from the television speakers, and you're getting the high end of the spectrum from this hypersound clear device, and you can have a conversation with the other people in the room because they're not being disturbed by what you're hearing.
Right.
You can run the television at a normal volume,
And it's called hypersound.
It's called hypersound clear. There's a big spread on the website. Ben, if you want to,
Sure.
go hunt it up and pull that up there.
You'll take a look at that, and we're going to go to break, and then we'll be right back. You're listening to the Computer America Show. We've got a brand new news tip and review from Marty Winston coming up as well. Gary Kay joins us for both hours. We'll be right back with them. Please stay with us.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's the fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they're available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
So he wants to harvest the lead in city water to make bullets? Hi, Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, the Hagen Cadet Senses 2.0 Super Circuit. Steve Martin said his cat would go online and order cat toys. If there's a cat anywhere you get your work done, you know how much they like to get between you and your keyboard, not actually laying on your keyboard. Often a cat will come to you when there's nothing that's more interesting to do. So we got in the Cadet Senses 2.0 Super Circuit from Hagen for review. It's a raceway you configure with straight and curved covered sections, up and down channel heights, and a ball inside. It's fun, and as soon as you're done playing with it, your cat may want to take over. Bottom line, the Hagen Cadet Senses 2.0 Super Circuit is a great way for cats who want to have a ball to have fun not being quite able to get it. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is indeed 33 minutes past the hour as we are here, the whole show here with Gary Kay. And yeah, over the break I kind of pulled up the Hypersound Clear, which is again from Turtle Beach, which is an article well written on Tech50 Plus. Pretty easy for you to find. It's right there on the front page. And one thing, one little detour I want to make about this is that this is also getting into, because Turtle Beach, just like you said, makes a lot of gaming equipment, and and they are very, very good with their gaming headsets and sound systems. But this is getting into kind of a partner category of just what are great audio solutions that people really haven't considered before. And even if you don't have something like hearing loss, if you just want to kind of beam the sound directly to a person without bothering everyone else in the room, something like this is just as great. I mean, Craig actually flew out to go talk to the folks at Brookstone. And Craig, did they have and I'm either confusing Craig having an experience with one of their audio systems, or another one of our correspondents had an experience with it might have been Ralph Bond, who he went to either Brookstone or Bose, and they're like, tell us where you want the sound to come from, and we can beam the sound, to make it sound like it's coming from that direction. And they were able to, like he pointed up at the corner, 20 feet up, and they were able to, fiddle with some knobs and have the sound came directly from that direction.
I think it was Ralph Bond, and also Yamaha was one of they had their sound bars. They would
that too. I mean, like I was saying, this is like a whole sister topic of different sound solutions that aren't just headphones that plug into your TV or bigger speakers.
Yeah, I mean the idea of the focus direction, but this is the first where I've seen this situation where the person actually who is losing, they lose some of the high audio, or I guess the sibilants, the S's and the T's, and things get muddled or murky.
What'd you call them?
The sibilants, S's and T's, you really can't hear them. This kind of brings all that back to the person who is listening to this hypersound clarity.
My first reaction when I sat through the demo of this thing was holy four-letter expletive, because it was just that astonishing to me. And then they sent me a set to use at home, and you move literally 2 feet outside of that sweet spot, and there's no there.
Mm-hmm.
And the technology has potential applications in other ways. And Ben, you pointed it out, you'll be able to beam specific audio to somebody in a specific location without disturbing anyone else. They've also now, the Turtle Beach guys are developing a use for this, which apparently is effective in treating tinnitus, to stop that ringing in your ear. And a lot of people do suffer from that, and apparently they found these emitters effective in blocking that. It's really nice to see somebody coming up with a technology that you can turn to and say, I know people for whom this will make a significant improvement in the quality of their lives from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, other applications as well. One of the things that we're looking at was translators. You have somebody speaking, and you can have a different area. You would have people hearing it, the same thing in different languages, literally almost side by side. They could hear everything, but it's in the spoken language.
Yes.
Choice.
Yeah.
Which is quite amazing. You have an auditorium of people, and you got somebody speaking in one language, and it gets disseminated to all these different languages, and they don't have headphones on. They're just sitting there, and they're hearing, their particular audio from what the person is saying, which is amazing.
I mean, there are a lot of challenges ahead for them to promulgate this technology broadly, but the fact that they've got it and they've got an initial use case for it that's really very effective, I think is lovely. They're actually selling it through, getting back to the audiologists, they're actually selling it through the hearing industry and not through retail, because they want to be recognized as a provider of legitimate hearing solutions as opposed to just another stereo gadget.
So something like that might fall under Medicare or insurance, so that type of thing.
Well, I mean, again, the problem with all of those hearing aids is that there's very little insurance coverage for them. These things are running about $1,500 for the pair. But you know what? When you consider $5,000 for hearing aids, and you consider how much time a lot of people, especially retired or elderly people, are spending in front of a television set, this could actually be a worthwhile investment.
All right. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. Of course, the alternative right now is that they have to wear headphones.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And anything that kind of frees them or untethers them from that kind of environment, certainly it would be highly desirable.
Well, one of the problems with hearing loss across the board is this whole issue of social isolation, because if you can't hear, you can't have a conversation with somebody. And so, the reverse is that if you're sitting in a room watching television and you have to blast the television in order for you to hear it, it means you're not having a conversation with the person next to you because you've made things uncomfortable for them. So social isolation and hearing loss are very closely tied together.
Yes, exactly. And again, you can see all this at the Tech50 Plus website, everything we're talking about. Of course, you're watching the live video stream. Ben actually has it up as well. But
I thought you were going to go with social isolation. That's definitely a problem. But I thought you were going to go in case of sneak attacks, you're leaving yourself very vulnerable if you put on headphones. It's very isolating, and that's a problem. If someone's trying to get you. So that too.
Are you a little paranoid, Ben?
No. No.
He's
okay.
not paranoid. Ben's not paranoid.
We're good.
It's all right. I got to tell you, all the things I was looking at here, sneak attacks was not one of the things that came up on the radar scope. That's all.
All right.
Like,
Yeah.
okay.
And also I found just a very, very simple search for Better Hearing Month. You pull up a lot of resources. There's like at-home tests you can take, and there's lots and lots of resources online. I mean, let's face it, a simple Google search is going to tell you all the resources available for you if you think that you might be suffering from some sort of hearing loss.
Now, Duracell, which has its own sort of player in the game in that they're the largest maker of hearing aid batteries, is offering thousands of free hearing tests this month as well. So if you go to the Duracell website, you can find out how to go about doing that. But I mean, again, clearly they're not doing it for entirely altruistic reasons.
No, but certainly. And of course, one of the things is that it gets a little. People don't necessarily realize it's a little. What's the word that I'm looking for? It kind of sneaks in. You don't realize that you've lost it or you're having it, and you go, what? But if you keep finding yourself saying, what was that, or
yeah, I mean, to me, the sure indicator. There are a couple of sure indicators in terms of that first sign of high-end loss, is less often the notion of asking people to repeat something, although that certainly happens a lot. But you can really zero in on it in watching television, because you really start losing that dialogue, and you go, well, maybe it's the dialogue that's muffled, and you raise the volume, and they go, oh, if I raise the volume, oh, you know what, I'm probably starting to lose the high end of my hearing. But getting people to make that connection between what the problem is and what the cause is, that's a little tricky. And that's why they say so much hearing loss is undiagnosed.
Yeah. Exactly. So May is a Better Hearing Month, and these are some of the efforts that are being made to improve on that. I guess if you want more information about it, you can go to the Tech50 Plus website and read some of the stories. Again, Tech50 TECH50 plus, then PLUS, Tech50 plus, or just head over to computeramerica.com. It's right there on our homepage, and you can see all the different stories that Gary has posted up at the Tech50 Plus website.
But let me reiterate what Ben said, which is that if you go out and Google May is Better Hearing Month, you will find just boatloads of resources that will help you identify hearing problems with easy take it home or take over a telephone tests.
Yeah, really. And there are a lot of places that you can do that. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about before we move on to the next topic, Gary? On this, anything else you might have left out, or did?
No, I think we've beaten hearing to death for the moment. So we're happy to move on to something else, Greg.
All right. So now we have, and I'm sure that you're not surprised at this, have been talking quite a bit about virtual reality. From many different perspectives or different points of view. We've had graphic experts from graphic cards. We've had the kind of computer you're going to need to, actually experience virtual reality. All the different virtual reality headsets that are here now or that are on the horizon. We've talked to experts up the wazoo about this. But one of the perspectives that we really didn't get into is virtual reality for older adults, and how VR could be really a big deal for the 50-plus market. And I can't think of anyone better to talk about that than you. So why don't you kind of lead this discussion on virtual reality from this perspective, Gary?
So let me take you back almost 30 years when a fellow by the name of Jaron Lanier. Have you ever seen Jaron Lanier?
Nope.
Jaron Lanier wears a muumuu and dreadlocks. A really fascinating character, and he was really credited as one of the first creators of virtual reality. And when he first did it back in the 80s, nobody knew what to do with it. And one of the first places that really went into the development of it was NASA. And I was first exposed to it when I was doing some pieces for ABC News, because you needed at that point a supercomputer to do the processing for it.
Yeah, I would think so.
And they had them at NASA at their Ames Research Center out in Mountain View, long before Google was, anybody's notion of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And what NASA wanted to do was develop it for use in really sort of early stage telemedicine. The idea was to use virtual reality as a way of having robots operate on people in space, so that if something went wrong during a space mission, a doctor on the ground could put on the goggles and put on sort of VR gloves to manipulate devices that might be on board a space station and take care of a patient. And it was very, very rudimentary, stick figure kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you would put on the gear, which involved, gloves with sensors on them, and this whole big array of headgear, and you were totally isolated. Talk about getting sick in virtual reality, because you had no exposure from anything else, and the world was spinning around you.
It's almost like sensory deprivation.
Right. Well, it's like what were those tanks?
Yeah, the sensory deprivation tanks, and
Right.
people, and they would zone out. They would actually freak out because having all the hearing, the sight, and everything blanked out, the brain couldn't handle it.
Right. It would sort of go off on its own.
Yeah, real.
But then what we've seen is as processing power got better and better, and the graphics and so on, the first reaction that everybody had was games. And that's all very well and fine, but now we're at the point where I'm far less concerned about the technology because I think the technology is getting there. The processing power has gone up. The graphics have gotten better. The equipment has gotten more lightweight. It's accessible and so on. To me, what's now really interesting is the content. What do you do with virtual reality besides shooting the guy next to you? And I give Mark Zuckerberg incredible credit for understanding what the potential of VR was in Facebook's purchase of Oculus. I mean, he really understood that in its ultimate execution, VR can bring people together in a virtual room. They can go out for a virtual lunch. They can, turn to one another at a table and have intimate conversations in a way that they never could before. And it basically makes this immersion into a virtual world quite amazing. And I think, so we're talking about, how are people in their 50s, 60s, and so on going to use it? Our friend Tim Beharon is really jazzed about it because of the potential of multi-generational interaction. Instead of having to watch one of your grandkids through a flat screen using Skype or FaceTime, imagine being in the same virtual room with your grandchild, watching them crawl around the floor and almost playing with them.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen people who get together for, Craig used to do this, he doesn't do it much anymore, but a weekly game of backgammon, because I guess backgammon is a dying art, but a weekly game of gin, a weekly game of dominoes, whatever pick your poison. And they did, like, the game is definitely secondary to the social aspect of it, that hey, you get together with your friends, catch up, talk, and that kind of thing. And time and time again, virtual reality has shown that just those group kind of games, even if the only representation of your friend is a cartoonish looking avatar, it's still the most social thing technology has afforded us. More social than a phone call, more social than a Skype call, more social than any kind of video feed or what have you. Just the the cartoonish representation of a friend sitting next to you is such a different feeling when it comes to kind of connection.
Right, and so as we get into the more of the real sense cameras in our PCs, and you can go from having a stick figure avatar to having a real representation of yourself in this virtual room, it's going to make this such a realistic experience. And Ben, I agree with you entirely in what you just said, because one of the things that happens, folks get older, they move away from their old homes, they retire, they lose track of their friends, and on one very simple single dimensional level, Facebook has cured a lot of that. Skype has cured a lot of it, but can you imagine being able to get together with the friends who you haven't seen in 10, 20 years, or the folks you thought you were going to lose track of forever when you stayed in New York and they moved to Florida, and now you can see them on a regular basis and still play gin rummy with them.
Right, or bridge, or whatever. You're
okay.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean,
or mahjong, right?
Mahjong, right? Exactly. Because the physical location can become a problem of getting to those people, but with the advent of this technology, you can still interact with people and feel like you're in the same room with them, and actually play the games, do the stuff, interact, and not have to, get into the car, get a driver, or or have to get you to the location, even if it's nearby. It's still a giant pain. But now you can
And hopefully one day you can evolve from a simple card game or what have you, and hopefully you can maybe move on to, I don't know, 2v2 capture the flag with rifles and what have you,
I think one of the interesting applications, and Tim Beharon writes about this in the piece that you have up on the website right now, Ben, is the whole notion that as you age, your movement becomes more and more constrained. So, I mean, for example, I'm in my late 60s, and my wife and I love to travel, but now we're at the point where in planning a trip, we sort of look at what trips do we want to take and how physically exhausting are they going to be.
Exactly.
And with virtual reality, you can look forward to basically being able to go almost anywhere and never having to leave your armchair. And there are going to certainly be places that either you can't afford or you're not physically capable of going to, that you can really immerse yourself in simply by putting on a VR headset and listening to some great audio that really immerses you in that environment in a way that is as realistic as you're likely to get without being there.
Exactly, and that's and again, I mean, you see so much of it now, and as far as people getting together and or going to they go to these restaurants like Starbucks, what have you, or similar ones, and they'll have the mahjong tables, but they have to do it at a specific time, and then there's parking, and there's all these problems. Can you imagine all that kind of going away and just doing it from the comfort of your own home? You just sit down, you put on the VR headset in front of your computer, and now you can interact with these people. It's like sitting with them, being with them, and not having to go through all that additional, making it happen. I think that it certainly would open up an amazing world to make. And there are some people, of course, as you get older, or you're physically challenged and you can't go anymore. You just you can't do how it was, and you miss the games and you want to see your friends. What a great way to do it. And
one of the things that's interesting to me, I was in Ireland a couple of years ago doing some research on a project and working with some of the government and NGO officials there on aging in place.
Mm-hmm.
And what they said to me was that, and I subsequently got this from other folks as well, is that for elderly folks, and this was a particular problem in rural Ireland, where there were old farmers who were miles away from the closest towns and just had no way of getting there. And as they aged, they became increasingly socially isolated. And what they found is that social isolation leads to physical deterioration.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. You have to stay engaged to stay healthy.
Yes.
And VR, whether it's in a rural area or even in an apartment block in Manhattan, you think about folks who are 75 years old, who may have spent 20 years in a third-story walk-up, and now for them to get out of their house becomes a major issue. There's no elevator. It's three flights of stairs. It's like an insufferable obstacle to them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, having VR will open up an entire world to them. And I expect you're going to see that as we move forward, just as the FCC has taken steps to improve access to internet for the elderly and for the poor, it wouldn't be at all surprising to me if, depending on who's the next president, we see in 5 or 10 years efforts underway to open this same kind of threshold to VR, so that people can be further engaged without having to leave home and stay healthy. And there are obviously huge medical implications in terms of health monitoring and so on that go along with it.
Right, exactly. Again, and we're just kind of we're really kind of scraping the surface here. I mean, there's so many things it's just getting started. I mean, these headsets are just coming onto market. We're just seeing them, and I realize that the first generation of headsets too. I think as time progresses, the next 3 to 5 years, these things are going to get smaller, lighter. A lot of them will become just like putting on a pair of glasses, literally, and they're going to be easier to maintain and manage. And I think it's just going to get better and better. And I think it's going to bring. Did you ever see the movie Surrogates? That was with Bruce Willis, where they had that. It was sort of like that. It was a virtual reality. People were all staying in their homes, and they were kind of interacting, but through this kind of virtual reality thing. But you know, it's funny that how Hollywood kind of looks ahead and kind of gives us a little peek of what's going to actually happen, and I think we're seeing a lot of that here.
And the other part of this technology is augmented reality.
Oh yes,
which is so different and has some really interesting applications. I don't know if you want to sort of go back to that after the break, but there's a lot of great stuff taking place in augmented reality, which is a much more approachable technology today than VR is, and it also has a tremendous application for not only for older folks but for anybody who's anywhere.
Right, exactly. Well, as you said, we're up at the top of the hour, and we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we'll continue on with more of this. And some of the other things we're going to be talking about with Gary is the Internet of Things, but how, again, from a 50-plus perspective. We're talking about wearable trackers, again, on our wrists, and we're going to be talking about that as well. That's all coming up in the second hour of the show. Don't forget, it's the beginning of the week, and to make sure that you are registered for a social media contest where we're giving away the Logitech M535 Bluetooth wireless mouse that works with Windows, Mac, anything that's Bluetooth. It'll work with it. We're going to give one of those away again Friday. Head over to computeramerica.com and get your contest entry in now, and it could be your name that will be calling off. In the meantime, we are up against the top of the hour. 347-884-8881. We'll get you on and get you through, and then we'll be back for the second hour of the Computer America show. Stay with us. We're going to be right back. Just a moment.
Broadcasting live, it's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into Hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And we continue on here. Gary Kay is Tech50 Plus's founder and chief content officer. We're talking to him right now about virtual reality. Again, if you have a comment or question, give us a call, 347-884-8881. We'll get you on and get you through. We're talking to him about that, all these different topics. So again, if you don't want to go on the air, just head over to computeramerica.com, any page. It says submit a question in the upper right-hand corner. Just click it. It'll take you to our question submission page. You can type in your comment or question, click the submit button. Ben and I will see it immediately. Or watch our live video stream that goes on at computeramerica.com. The show lounge is the selection you want to pick from any page, and it'll take you to our live video stream. You'll be joined to the show already in progress. So, Gary, we're continuing on. We're talking about virtual reality. You think that Facebook... the Facebook made a great call.
Well, I do. I mean, I think that ultimately, VR is going to be the ultimate social platform, and everything else. I mean, we're going to look back at well, we may not look back because we may not be here, but I think that people will look back at Facebook 20 years from now the same way we look at the telegraph. In terms of the earliest forms of social communication.
All right. Yeah, it is. I mean, we're sort of at that precipice, I guess. I mean, it is a whole nother.
Like I feel like we shouldn't be hyping it up that much because low expectations, you'll be really blown away. But like the marketing, let's just face it, I'm pretty sure the Telegraph didn't have a problem with the Telegraph. It doesn't do half as much as I thought it would. That's the stupid Telegraph. Like, and no one built the Telegraph up too high. But I feel like if like VR in the 90s, that was definitely built up too high. VR now, people just have to give it a chance, and they have to realize that this can only get better over the years. That it really can be revolutionary. Right? You just can't go in thinking, oh, I'm going to step into the holodeck and off of Star Trek, and it's going to be amazing. Like, they have to go in with the proper expectations. And I did the exact same thing. I tried out the HTC Vive a couple months ago, and I loved it. I mean, of course, I was just playing video games on it. I didn't try anything else. But going with the proper expectations, and I think you're really going to like virtual reality.
I think that to some extent, if you look at the history of our industry, in every instance, it all began with the technology and all evolved into the content. And I think that's what we're seeing now. Is we started off with this fascination about, gee, what can we do with this technology? And the answer is, well, you can make things work, but until you have the content, it's really not going to reach its potential. And now we're finally starting to understand that we have the technology to make great content. And the guys who are going to drive this forward, I mean, with all due respect to Mark Zuckerberg, the guys who are going to drive this forward are the advertising people. Because they're going to want you to use VR to go shopping for your next car, or go shopping for your next vacation, or shopping for furniture.
Well, I mean, it's going to be perfect. You want to take a vacation, or you want to buy a car, but you want to see what it's like to sit in the behind the steering wheel, get into it, and take it for a virtual drive, and check out all the things, all the stuff on the dashboard.
This has everything. VR has everything that, hey, you want to book your next hotel, on the Vegas Strip, take the virtual tour, look out the window, see exactly what you're going to get, when you're making bookings or scheduling anything, or just like I'm sure you're about to lead into, Gary, is essentially seeing the vacation before you even get there and before you even have to pay anything.
Right. Of course, one of the things that I find amusing, having been out in Vegas for CES, is that the porn industry now sees VR as a threat.
Yeah. Why be a threat? I think they're embraced.
Well, it's a little bit of both, but they're afraid that people are going to give up the real thing, for the virtual.
Well, and we have gotten many an email that says that they are some are definitely embracing it.
Yeah, I get pitches from the people who do PR in the porn industry, and I go, guys, when you get to my stage and my audience, the term size matters really takes on a different perspective, because we're talking about font. So,
what's the point size now? Exactly. What's the point? I guess.
Yeah. Well, but what I started to say just before the break was that I am equally fascinated by the potential of augmented reality, because I think on a day-to-day basis, on an hour-to-hour basis, augmented reality can be incredibly helpful. I mean, you'll be able to look at a scene on your smartphone and see, you walk down the street and it'll be able to tell you where the closest restaurant is, and show you the way, or where the nearest subway stop is, and so on, and or provide you with information. I mean, there are already programs out there that are doing this. That you stop at a graveyard, and it can tell you who's buried in the graveyard. I think that in terms of exploring the world around us, augmented reality has a tremendous potential. Only it's not doing it it's doing it in the real world. It is really augmenting what you're seeing rather than creating a virtual world.
Well, there are, even when you get into gaming, there's this new Pokemon game that we've been talking about where it requires you to go out and be where you are, but when you look through the augmented reality, the Pokemon.
When you say Pokemon, like you put the hard E there, and it makes it sound so odd.
Pokemon. All right, so
Pokemon. There you go. Just let it flow. It's natural. Act like you said it a billion
Nothing
times.
natural about Pokemon.
No.
Really.
The idea of augmented reality is definitely coming, and in video games it definitely holds a different kind of purpose, because augmented reality, admittedly, there's going to be games that let you sit on a couch and kind of experience a game, but augmented reality has that different kind of feel to it because it lets you
go out into the world.
Yeah, it really does untether you. That seems to be the word of the day. It's augmented reality is meant to be used to explore.
To play the game, you actually have to go outside, and do that, and get involved with it, and so it's very different than from the normal couch potato experience you have with games. It actually encourages you to go outside. So, I mean, and augmented reality, I really think now. Let's talk a little bit about augmented reality. You started to talk about for adults or people who are over 50. How do you envision augmented reality making our lives easier?
Well, I think, I mean, there are a couple of things here. Let me back up a little bit and talk about making it a little bit more fun and interesting, if not necessarily easier. I'm a history buff.
Okay.
And actually, at one time in my career, I was actually a high school social studies and history teacher. Oh. But so when I go someplace, I live in New England, where there's a lot of history. Just in the area where I live, Rochambeau marched his troops from here on the way down to Yorktown. For the final battle of the Revolution. Isaac Putnam wintered his troops here. And to me, the idea, and History Channel already has this program called History Here. If you're walking down the street or you're walking in a park, you can hold up your smartphone using an augmented reality program, and it will tell you what events took place. Who lived in that house, whether what historical figure marched through here in what date, and you walk down a street in Manhattan, and augmented reality can tell you why this building was famous 40 years ago. And gee, on this building, on this site, such and such an event took place. Things that you would really sort of be interested in knowing about, but wouldn't go to the trouble of looking up. But if it's right there, it's really easy to find, and it will really enhance the experience of sightseeing. I mean, I love exploring some of the neighborhoods in New York City, the old brownstone neighborhoods and so on. Yeah. And how many of it, and in Brooklyn as well, and how many of those buildings have some historic significance that I would never ever know about. But with an augmented reality program, I'd be able to just sort of point my smartphone at it and go, oh, so that's what took place there. So to me that's sort of fun.
See, but how many of these augmented reality tours are going to include, if you're watching the video portion, plaques such as this, where it'll read, on this site in 1897 nothing happened, because not everything is that interesting.
No, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't have a plaque on it.
Right.
So, and not everything is going to be of interest. But it means that you're less likely to walk by something that was of interest and not know about it. So, you know.
You know, one idea that someone had was, and you know, admittedly, it's going to take a lot of work to get it to really happen. But Google is already kind of doing, you know, this augmented virtual reality thing with, like, they want to do it on hiking trails so that you can kind of hike the trail
Oh,
by
they're doing
yourself.
it now. You know that, right?
Yeah, and they're taking like the 360 camera shots, and so
It's like a 70-pound backpack that these guys
yeah,
are carrying
I know.
on the trail with them. Yeah, to do this
Yeah,
stuff.
so they're doing things like that, but you know, imagine in the future you're going to be able to hike trails like they were when they were first photographed. You know, trails, you know, come and go and they change all the time, and you know, sites and events happen that will never happen the same way again. But with the proper filming equipment, you know, admittedly, let's say there's a concert in the year 2020 and it's now 2050 or something like that, 30 years later, put it on a virtual reality put on a virtual reality headset, and you can then reenact, you know, going forward, you're going to be able to reenact events as if you were there. You know, news reporting in Sudan, or you know, just you're going to be able to reenact events in the near future.
It's even going to be better than that. Even better than that, Ben, because I night before last I was at, God forbid I say this, my 50th high school reunion. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, it's like everybody's going, "Hey, how are you doing?" Well, still vertical. You know, but you think back, and with today's technology, you'll be able to recreate. You'll be able to go out in 50 years and take a walk through your old neighborhood as it existed 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What an amazing thing! Where you'd be able to go back and look at. I mean, the area that I grew up in Queens back in the 1930s was still farmland. What a kick that would be for me to be able to go back and look at what that place looked like 50 or 100 years ago. And future generations are going to be able to do that thanks to the technology that's being developed today. And you know, history is going to take on an entirely new perspective, not just in terms of major events, but in terms of micro events. I think it'll be absolutely fascinating. It's like, you know, what's going on in the hood? Well, let me show you what the hood looked like 50 years ago or 100 years ago.
Yeah, the applications are definitely very, very numerous. I mean, we're seeing it in education. You know, if you've ever wanted to learn something new, augmented reality. You know, they're saying that they could come with cars one day, so that you know when you pop the hood open, everything's labeled. You know, and you don't have to guess. What is this big thing? Oh, that's the engine. That's interesting. Like,
right, and we actually started seeing that almost 20 years ago with the strap-on computers that service people were using with an eyepiece that would allow you to look at an engine and have the schematics beamed into your eye at the same time. Now, obviously, things are gotten a lot better, so that yes, with augmented reality, you'll actually be able to put the label right over it when you pop open the engine.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
It is. I mean, especially if you're on the road or you're stranded or something, and you pop the hood and you need to find out where the oil goes, or that type of thing. With something like something with virtual reality, you certainly could. You could certainly. You could see it. I mean, you could. I mean.
Here's the spigot, idiot. Yes.
I always like
Why do you
people that
never put oil in your car?
I always like the people who are like, oh, just put in any nozzle. They're all connected. It doesn't matter which hole you put it in. I love those people.
Oh God.
Oh, you don't want to do that. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on, and because I guess it's a good segue into the Internet of Things, because again, that's another topic we've been talking about quite a bit these days. But as you say, basically. For people who are 50 and over, this is also going to change the landscape for them.
It is. I have some issues with IoT.
Okay.
And you go out to CES and everybody's trying to show you how plug and play it is, but it's not plug and play. We're still a long way from a real simple household solution in terms of either a connected home or the next step along, which is remote healthcare monitoring and so on. And one of the frustrations that I have is that a lot of these guys are going saying, we've got the one solution for all of your IoT needs to hook up everything in your home. And the fact is, not so fast. You still have, and I think we've talked about this before, it's like, the VHS versus Betamax thing. Is it Z-Wave? Is it Zigbee? You're going to develop for Amazon's Echo platform.
Yep.
Who are you going to interact with? And right now, I think that for my older audience, this is still very, very challenging, just in terms of doing it. And in terms of hooking up that doorbell, hooking up the video camera, hooking up the garage door opener, hooking up the door sensors, and all of that.
But couldn't we get people to do that for them? I mean, you don't necessarily need to do the mechanic. You don't have to be the mechanic to drive the car. You just want to drive the car. I mean, you could have them install the video doorbell, or you could have them install whatever it is for them. Or set up an Amazon Echo. So all you have to say is, hey, Alexa, and dim the lights for me. I mean, you can have it set it up so.
But that's not the way they're selling it. I agree with you, Craig. I mean, it is easy enough, but it's not that easy to get somebody in, because everybody who wants to do that wants to sell you the solution that's going to cost you a fee of $30 to $50 a month. For ongoing monitoring. Nobody wants to come in and do this as a one-shot deal. It's, I got you by the and I'm going to keep pumping you for whatever. Well, it would be nice if somebody would sort of come in and do it. And listen, I've had some of these systems in the house, and I could deal with them. But when something stopped functioning, my wife was adamant. She basically said, it's beeping. I don't know where it's beeping from or why it's beeping. Throw the thing out. Okay. And I think you're still getting some of that. I don't think it's as easy as the industry would like us to believe it is. And if you walk through CES and they're selling these sort of one-stop single solutions for the connected home. They aren't one-stop. They aren't that simple. And eventually they may get there that way. But listen, we're still having grief with wireless whole house music systems. Have you tried installing one of those?
Yeah, they can be
well, first of all, they're much better than the whole home wired systems. Those things were
okay, I'll give you that. But at the same time, I mean, the only one I've tried probably about 4 or 5 of these things now, and the only one that installs without giving me infinite grief was Sonos. I mean, they got it right.
They got it. They've been around for quite some time. Yes.
They got it right from the get-go, and they've been doing it right. And I've had others, and I don't want to start naming names, but where I've spent hours trying to get these things to talk to each other. And part of it has to do with the fact that they're smartphone interrelated, and as we all know, somebody's Bluetooth stack that's supposed to connect with somebody else's Bluetooth stack doesn't always, because they don't always stack up to be the same. It's like, when is a standard not necessarily a standard?
Yeah.
I've got some experience in doing this, and I've spent hours on the phones with some of these tech support guys. In some instances, it was really simple. It was shut off the iPhone, pick up an Android phone, and installed.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just stupid. Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of the same stuff with IoT. So I think that we're still a ways away from getting it to be as seamless as the industry would like us to believe it is already. It's not. And the other concern that I still have is security. And I still don't see a lot of great solutions to the security issue. Some guy, even though I live in the boonies, some guy with the right rig could sit 100 yards from my house and basically, if his gear is sophisticated enough and his encryption breaking software strong enough, he could figure out how to get into my garage, how to get into my medical systems, how to get into anything. And the more we hook up, the more nodes of vulnerability that we have in all of that stuff. And that makes me a bit nervous still. And I'm not seeing great solutions to that.
Yeah.
That's something that we've definitely covered on the show before, and whenever we ask companies, I'm pretty sure we just had Kwikset on, and they are looking to make connected locks. So like the last line of defense, or at least the first line of defense for a lot of people, which is the deadbolt. They're looking to make that a connected device. So obviously people are very wary about it. They they do penetration testing. They have a lot of people really go for it. But at the end of the day, you're right. When you think something is all buttoned up and you think it's all safe, someone comes out and says, oh, we found this vulnerability. All you have to do is spoof this, spoof that, and all of a sudden you're in the network and you can have access to everything you've connected.
Wait.
Okay.
But and I understand that, and I understand where you're coming from, and to a certain extent I agree. But nothing's new. I mean, that's been like with the from locks from the beginning. I mean, I have a medical lock, and now it's unpickable. But the people out there know how to pick a lock, and get into my home. I mean, it's always been the lock and key syndrome. How secure am I with my front door lock now? Okay.
I think what Kwikset said was that absolutely people can crack the encryption that we use to connect to your iPhone, but is someone going to use $20,000 worth of equipment, or is someone going to take a rock and throw it through your window?
Well, I think that there are a couple of answers to that. I mean, first of all, I'll get back to my slightly paranoid concern, which is that if hackers can successfully break into the biggest banks on the planet and break into the Pentagon with the most secure encryption systems that have ever been created, how tough is it going to be to hack your front door? The answer is it's not. And in terms of scale, well, if you're going to invest in $20,000 worth of equipment, Ben, that means that you could use that same $20,000 worth of equipment to break into 1,000 homes, not just one. So as a crook, you can achieve economies of scale. And so, far more than somebody with a simple pick breaking into a lock. So that concerns me. But the other thing is, it's just sort of the whole notion that whenever you are connecting stuff up, every time there is a connection, that is what I would call a node of vulnerability. And if you've got 20 different devices, it's 20 nodes of vulnerability. And when you think about what some of these things can do, I mean, Samsung has been really big on this notion of connecting your stove. Do I want somebody to have the ability to turn on my stove when I'm away from home and I have no control over it? That's scary.
And we've seen that before, where some companies out there, they think their first line of defense is, why would anyone want to do that? I mean, that was, when the connected devices first started showing up, I always go back to it was
it's blood sport, guy.
Exactly, blood sport. And the first thing that this hotel connected was their wine refrigerator, so that they can monitor their wine at their corporate headquarters. And they security nowhere to be found. They tapped into it and they jacked the temperature up and ruined thousands upon thousands of dollars of wine. Why? Because
it was there, right? They could do it. Yeah, so that's to my point. So I think that the industry still has a long way to go to convince folks that the connected home is something that they really want to depend on. Yeah, connected thermostat. Okay, if I'm a sunbird, a snowbird, and I want to make sure that my pipes aren't freezing back home, having a connected thermostat actually has some justification. But I'm not so sure how much I want connected at once.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I wouldn't consider myself a Neanderthal on this, but I am a skeptic.
Okay.
Not a Luddite or whatever you call them, but no, not Neanderthal. And thankfully, unthankfully, whatever way you want to look at it, security is definitely going to keep coming up. I mean, they just had the articles about Jeep being hacked and actually shutting off their car on the middle of the highway. That was entertaining. Or at least, I'm sorry, showing proof of concept that they didn't actually do it to someone. They showed proof of concept that they were able to do it.
Right, and we've been hearing about what you can do on an airplane's entertainment system.
Oh yeah, and luckily a lot of these are being found by security professionals who are
Right.
kind of doing it for
right, white hat security guys.
Exactly. But as much as you don't want things to go that way, hey, myself included, I'm kind of looking forward to the day when I can monitor my entire home from my smartphone. Is it going to be safe? I hope eventually they work all the kinks out and it gets pretty dang safe. But I can see where people could be wary.
Yeah, I'm more interested in sort of the extension of that to healthcare monitoring, and the fact that we are more and more going to move towards remote monitoring of chronic populations living at home, things like congestive heart failure, diabetes, and COPD and the like, where we know that consistent monitoring can dramatically reduce hospital readmissions. So you have a safety factor, you've got a health factor, you've got a cost factor, all of which benefit from being connected. And folks like Qualcomm Life have done an awful lot to promulgate the technologies while trying to maintain, absolute security. But I'm hoping we'll have time to get into some of this in the next segment.
Yeah.
We talk about wearables, but as we become connected to wearables, some of this stuff is even going to become more important because we'll be able to hack into what's going on in our bodies. That gets scary.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you imagine hacking to the
It's
blood?
like, yeah, you have a smartphone app for your heart, and you can set it to 80 beats per minute, 60 beats per minute, just whatever you want.
Exactly. All right. Well, listen, we're at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to pick up on the fabric of our lives, wearable trackers on our wrists, and the sensors that are out there. You're listening to the Computer America Show. 347-884-8881 will get you through. Ben and I are talking to Gary Kay. He is the founder and chief content officer for Tech50 Plus, and we're talking about many of the issues. And when we come back, we'll talk about wearable trackers and sensors in our socks, in our ears, in our hats, and wherever heck we want to put them. We're going to pause, and then we'll be right back. This is the Computer America Show. Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they're available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control. where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf's staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no-kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
Hey, so what if computers have more memory than husbands? Hi, Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, it's Bug Bite Thing. We're not being rude, but Bug Bite Thing sucks big time. When you get a bee or a wasp sting or a mosquito places a packet of poison into your skin, this works like the most macho toilet plunger ever, scaled down to dollhouse size. Or you may want to think of it as a hypodermic without the needle, configured to withdraw rather than inject. The outer body is about the size of a penny roll. A T-shaped plunger inside has an O-ring on the far end, a top cap keeps it in place, and a reversible bottom bell helps it fit larger or smaller skin areas. Tug the T, and it draws out the insect venom that makes you itch or hurt. Bottom line, make your first response to a bite or sting a sucky time with a Bug Bite Thing. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 33 minutes past the hour, and Gary Kay is finishing out the show here with us as we are reviewing Tech 50 Plus. Lots of great articles. Everything that we're talking about is pretty much covered here in one form or another. With all the resources and what have you. But we are just finishing up the connected Internet of Things, and we made a nice little segue from connected homes and connected devices, and the thermostat is the least of your worries at this moment as we kind of move on to connected health things. But before we move on to wearables, which is kind of connected accessories, I also kind of want to get Gary's opinion on, I don't know if you had heard about Watson from IBM being used in different applications, but Watson is doing more and more to help in the medical field, where instead of playing Jeopardy, Watson is instead being used to diagnose people.
So I actually met with some of the Watson folks at an event in New York last week, and I think that you're spot on. I think that taking the potential of Watson and applying it to medical issues is a big step forward. And let's face it. One of the things that's going on in medicine is a huge transition that is going to take a generation to take place from sort of cadre-based medicine to individualized medicine. And when I say that, basically the way that doctors have treated diseases up until now has been, well, this worked 98% of the time for all these people, so it'll probably work for you. Instead, we're moving, thanks to technologies like Watson, to being able to look at the specific genomic breakdown of an individual and see what's going on in his genes, what he's susceptible to, what can be repaired, and how it can be done. And medicine ultimately will be treated on a cellular basis, on a genetic basis, and it is going to, I think, make an unbelievable difference in longevity and in outcomes. And it is going to take computers to do that, because only computers can process the kind of information, that the volume of information. Look at the poor doctors these days. I don't mean that from a financial perspective, but you've got a GP out there who sees patients, And he used to be able to go home at night and read up on a couple of, 30, 50 years ago, he could go home, read up at night in the medical journals and sort of see what was going on in a whole variety of specialty areas, and would seldom, need to send a patient off to a specialist unless it was, a really big deal. Today, he doesn't have a chance in hell of staying up to date on what's going on. And even the specialists are overwhelmed with information. It's in terms of whether it's progress on kidneys, on livers, on bloodborne diseases, and so on.
Whatever's happening to Craig's face. There's a guy for that, but he can't follow.
To me, this is all very, very exciting, but it's all very challenging. And doctors basically are going to be transitioning, whether they like it or not, from treaters based on symptoms to managers of huge volumes of information about linking the developments that are going on in research, genomics, with what's taking place inside the body of their patients and matching them up accordingly. It's going to be an entirely different world, very exciting, one I'm not going to live to see. I'm sorry about that. But the technology out there and the promise that it holds, and yes, Watson and computer systems like Watson are going to be the absolute touchstone key for making this happen.
Yeah.
If I sounded excited about it, I am excited about it.
My whole thing with Watson was that he's being used right now to diagnose, and whereas hopefully you get a good doctor, and the difference between a good doctor and a bad doctor is because a bad doctor will say, oh yeah, that mole, according to my research, you look fine, don't worry about it. And a good doctor will go, I've seen that before, let's get it checked out, let's send you off to so and so. Watson is being used in terms of diagnosis, where imagine instead of having one doctor that you have to rely on, 40 years ago he went to med school, and then 40 years of actual out in the world experience, and hopefully he's up to date, like you said, on things he has no possible way of being up to date on. Watson, he only has about a million medical records in him, but he has a million different cases of, this person grew up here, here, and here. This person had these kinds of, systems going on, and just even though it's just 1 million medical records, he can diagnose based on everything he's learned about those 1 million patients. If you match 99% of similar cases as this person, you might also have this. And that's 1 million. What happens when you feed in 350 million or 7 billion, what have you?
Right, and you're quite right. So this is a great transition point, because what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about how we get from risk trackers to Watson.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And there really is an amazing progression taking place. Risk trackers were 2010, but what we're doing now is we started off using risk trackers and the like as methods to quantify what we're doing. How many steps, and now what's happening is that we're moving from devices that quantify to devices that diagnose, and then we're going to move to devices that actually provide therapy. And this is going to be the transition of wearables over the next year to infinite. And so, for example, we've had heart rate monitors for a while. All right, so you could monitor what your heart is doing, but now we have devices like a LiveCore, and we have some of the smartwatches that basically have single lead EKGs that actually can diagnose and provide information to your doctor on what's going on with your heart. We have devices, in fact, if you take a look at you just brought it up, we just within the last hour posted the piece you're looking at, Ben, on smartwatches as health monitoring tools. And Tim Beharon talks about the Dexcom G5 continuous monitoring blood glucose device that feeds results to your smartwatch, to your Apple Watch, and to your smartphone, and will tell you immediately if your blood glucose is out of line, either too high or too low. So these devices are moving very rapidly from their ability to just monitor or quantify what's going on to their ability to actually diagnose what your problem is. And then the next step is to actually treat it. And the treatment forms are going to be pretty amazing. It's going to be everything from computer-controlled patches that will administer drugs, all the way to fabrics that have sensors built into them. So, for example, a company called Sensoria that has been producing socks to monitor runners, they're now using that same technology to monitor what's going on with the feet of diabetics. And diabetic foot problems are a major issue for many diabetics because of neuropathy. They lose their feeling in their feet and they get ulcers and they don't take care of them, or they're not aware of them, and they get toes and feet and legs amputated as a result. And now you'll be able to use the Sensoria socks with new apps to monitor what's going on in this person's foot and say, gee, it's been too hot down there for too long. Or you're putting pressure in a bad place for too long and it could result in an ulcer. So, and ultimately, you're going to see things like exoskeletons. You're 65 years old. You don't want to go out and shovel snow. But what happens if you slip on a lightweight exoskeleton that has devices in it that will empower your muscles to comfortably shovel snow? So you don't have to do any more straining.
Yeah, that sounds like science fiction. It sounds like something straight out of Aliens. But dock workers, and I know people who have to continuously lift heavy things. They've tried out these exoskeletons and they were able to lift hundreds of pounds. And when asked about it, they didn't say it was clunky or you had to learn. They said it was very natural. It's just like kind of picking it up and you feel the slight resistance, but instead of picking something up and it feels like 200 pounds, instead it feels like 2 pounds, and you just kind of lift it from A to B. So
right, and so now some of these devices, which started off as being 100 pounds of stuff, or 50 pounds or 70 pounds, they're now getting down to the 20 pound, 30 pound range, so that it's going to be a little bit like putting on a heavy suit, but it's going to give you the kind of lifting power you're just talking about. And it means that for people who are losing their mobility, when you think about ultimate applications of this technology, it's going to be a remarkable thing for them to get around.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is exactly available today? And exoskeleton, I know that they've been working on it and it has real-world applications, but as far as the health goes, something that someone maybe listening to the show would say, oh, I didn't know they had that, because I know something like that I haven't seen personally, like the drug release patches that you don't have to worry about, did I take my medication? That's all kind of tracked. What would you what is available on your website, or what would you kind of recommend people look into to help with health monitoring today?
So the good news and the bad news is that we actually have a piece that's been in the works for a few weeks now that I just haven't been able to get finished, called Fabrics of Our Lives, in which we're actually going to be looking at some of these things. So from the connected perspective, you've got folks like Dexcom that are doing continuously monitoring blood glucose, which saves you the pinpricks of having to take your measurements 3, 4, 8 times a day, and will make dealing with diabetes, which like 29 million Americans suffer from, much more easily manageable than it is today. You've got these devices from Sensoria and other folks that will measure your gait And one of the things that they have discovered is that changes in your gait are a major predictor of falls. And every time an elderly person falls, the average cost of that is like $100,000. And I think the numbers are, once you've fallen once, your odds of falling again, triple. So these devices, like Sensoria, will actually monitor your gait and serve as a predictor of your likelihood of falling. If you know that you're likely to fall, there are steps that you can take to forestall or prevent that. Everything from putting, making sure there are handrails on your staircase, making sure there's a grab bar next to your bed. Simple things like when you wake up in the middle of the night, sitting upright for a minute or two before you actually try to stand up. Really simple things that can dramatically reduce the likelihood that you're going to fall, but you're only going to know about it if you haven't had a fall before. If you are fortunate enough to have some kind of a device that's going to say, hey, geez, guy, your gait is changing, you're not walking as well as you used to, you really are at risk. So I think that's one big place. The whole notion of falls reduction is going to be a major area where wearables are going to come into play. Of course, we've already got the personal emergency response devices. Please help me, I've fallen, and that, but that's after the case. The idea here is to prevent the fall in the first place. Medication compliance. This is a huge issue. For one reason or another, the medical compliance with, especially with elderly people failing to take their medications is a multi-billion-dollar problem. And it means that when folks don't take their medications, they are not ameliorating the conditions for which the medications were prescribed, and they're going to land up back in the hospital. Again, there are tremendous costs for that, and we're going to have wearables that will monitor what's going on in your bloodstream to tell you if you've got the right level of medications, and we're going to have wearables that will actually inject the medications, transdermally, at the appropriate levels. You're also getting to the point now where pacemakers are being reduced in size to the point where they can actually be injected right into the heart muscle using a relatively non-invasive procedure. Instead of having to open up your chest, they can actually run a catheter right into your heart and inject one of these itsy-bitsy pacemakers right into the heart muscle.
Right. It's interesting that one of the things that we're seeing in this transition, Gary, is that a lot of the medical devices that we've had for so many years have been what I guess I like to call snapshot devices. When you go and take your blood pressure, for example, well, you see what your blood pressure is, but just for that moment in time.
Right.
It can change in like 5 seconds or 10 seconds after to something. It could drop, or you take your pulse. It's just for that. A lot of devices are temperature. It's just for that snapshot moment where we're talking about consistent monitoring, which is going to give you a much better overview of your general health condition.
So the corollary to that, Craig, which is exciting to me, is that if you look at the way that medications are administered, especially in, say, a hospital environment, they do it exactly the way that you're talking about. They do it predicated on a snapshot. All right, your blood pressure is X. Oh, it's too high. Therefore, I am going to administer blood pressure medication that is going to lower it. Oops, now it's too low. There are new algorithms being developed, and I've got to say that the I'm a big fan of a lot of the work that's been done at Qualcomm Life. Dr. James Malt, who's their chief medical officer, who's really a smart guy, is working on with folks who are developing algorithms that can see what's going on in your bloodstream and basically make micro adjustments in your medication before they are discernible to your healthcare practitioner.
Yeah.
So they'll essentially put in a tiny amount of medicine to make a minor adjustment before an incident takes place, instead of reacting with too much medication after the incident takes place. And so, yes, this business of continuing monitoring, along with continuing therapy, is going to offer, I think, some dramatic results. And again, we're all worried about the costs of healthcare, but this is the kind of thing that will ultimately reduce essentially major incidents and keep the relative cost of healthcare lower.
Yeah, out at CES this year there was a large booth by, I want to say it was like Bayer or someone who's not like they're in the medical field, but because they sell products in it, and it wasn't someone who like straightforward is an insurance company, but they were showing off products that they were providing for insurance companies. And these are things that are available now. You just kind of have to get the right the right health insurance plan. But now they give you a tablet, a tablet computer, and it has all of your medical information right there on one tablet. And this is, again, all provided for you for free. And you can schedule doctor's appointments in your network on this tablet. It tells you what kind of medications you're on. It lets you order your medication from that one tablet. Like, your entire medical life is, kind of contained in the cloud and in this tablet, and is very, very easy to parse through. And then at the end of it, thanks to all these connected devices, they'll also send out, heart monitors. They'll send out, fall cameras. Like, they'll tie everything into this one system that lets you more accurately, kind of track your condition. And for family members who may be worried about you, or even just yourself, if you, just connected devices, the health insurance companies definitely know that, yes, there's the upfront cost of providing these things, but in the long run, this is going to save us tons and tons of money, and a lot of insurance plans will cover a lot of this stuff for free because they know, again, it's going to save them money.
Well, we've known now, based on the trials that have been done for about half a dozen years, that continuous monitoring of chronic care patients, as I said before, things like diabetics, congestive heart failure, and so on, can lead to dramatically improved lower rates of hospital readmission. And it is only now, really within the last year or two, that we're seeing telemedicine being paid for by Medicare. Mm-hmm. And we're starting, and even slower than Medicare to adopt was the insurance companies. And now the insurance companies are finally starting to understand and embrace it. United Healthcare is doing a project with Qualcomm and a couple of others on using activity monitors. Back to the wrist, Craig.
Yeah.
Only now they're using it as a basis for continuing health monitoring, not just your own quantitative satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly. And
doctors love it, because then you don't have to. It's just like going into the mechanics with your car and saying, it makes this noise. I can't get it to do it right now, but I have this noise. Doctors love the fact that they can see, oh yeah, you're right, that did happen on that day at that time. So.
Right. Or your heart skipped a beat.
All around.
It might be, and get a much better overall picture of.
Right, and for things like AFib, this is really critical, because what I hear about is heart patients who may have an episode of AFib and then not get something else for months, or maybe it's such a low level that it's not giving them physical symptoms, but if they were tracking it on a continuous heart monitor, that was being monitored remotely, it would show up. And the trick here is not that you have somebody continuously looking at Fred's heart rate or at Irving's blood sugar, but you get into what they call management by exception, which is computerized monitoring and intervention when those numbers cross a threshold, and that's the point at which you intervene.
Right, exactly. Some exciting things coming up in the future.
Well, coming up and are already here. I mean, like I said, a lot of insurance plans, just ask and see if they have any of these connected devices. If you feel like you have a condition that they can help with, and a lot of them will send it out, absolutely free because they love the fact that they can get you to a doctor before it becomes a problem. So,
right.
So see if they have anything.
Yeah, and again, as I was trying to say that the tech is making it here. It may not make it for me or for Gary, but it's certainly, I think, in Ben's lifetime, we're going to see a lot of more of this happening as being more pervasive.
Yeah, we're probably not going to blow ourselves up with nukes anyways. It's just a matter of time.
Gary, we got less than a minute. Tell us what's coming up next for Tech 50 Plus.
Well, of course, the big thing for us is we're now into Dads and Grads season, and we just posted the first of our 5-part series on gifts for the tech gifts for the favorite dads and grads in your life, and we invite folks to come keep track of the website over the next few weeks as we keep adding a new segment every week. A lot of fun stuff out there. Biking season is here, and we're going to be upping the ante in terms of looking at new e-bikes hitting the market and some new technologies that are coming along to make e-bikes even more fun, smoother, and avoid getting nabbed by the New York City police.
Yeah, I love that article on that e-bike that you just did recently. I read it. It was really, really good. By the way, you're going to be coming back on the 27th of June rather than the 23rd, so Gary's going to be returning us on the 27th next month. Gary, stay with us to the end, please. And that about wraps up the show for us today. Coming up tomorrow in the first hour, we're going to have TrustedHouseSitters.com. This is basically, this is a service that allows you to find
90 seconds.
a house sitter and a pet watcher, so it allows you to travel more. And it's a free service. Go figure.
No longer paying the random person on the street to watch your house.
No, for your pet. Now basically you can do it through their service. And again, it is completely free. I got to hear how that actually works. Now
I want to hear that too.
Yeah, we're going to actually have the CEO Andy Peck is going to be on, CEO and co-founder of
60 seconds.
Trusted House Sitter is going to be on with the show in the first hour, and then the second hour we're going to do computer and technology news. That's brought to you by Slimware Utilities. They are the official optimization software of Computer America. Again, thank you all so much for being with us here. Gary, again, thank you so much for being with us. And
always good to be with you, Craig. You too, Ben.
Absolutely.
A lot of fun.
And Ben and I will be back here, same time, same place, same station. So until tomorrow afternoon, this is Craig Crossman hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.
Woohoo!
That guy never called me back.
No, he didn't. Oh, well.
10 seconds.
Here we go.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, everybody, again, thank you all for watching our behind the show scenes on our live video streaming here at Computer America. Again, thanks to Gary. Kay, thanks for being with us here, Gary. We'll see you next month, and we'll see all of you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Gary.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.